Hello and welcome everyone in the chapter 8 Secularism of NCERT Class 11 Book Political Theory. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to discuss chapter 8 Political Theory Secularism. So let us begin with very simple question. So first of all, when different religion, cultures and communities live together within the same country, how should a democratic state ensure everyone equal or equality for everyone? So this is the question which becomes particularly important in our country like India, where the religious diversity is a fundamental feature of the society. So secularism attempts to answer this question. Secularism is not simply about what we can say. Secularism is not simply about separating religion from state, or it is, but it is also concerned with the freedom, equality, dignity, and protection from the religious dominations. Throughout this chapter, we will explore some important questions like what exactly secularism is. And is secularism a Western concept imposed on India? Can secularism work in a society where religion continues to influence people's life? Does secularism favor or pamper minorities? And finally, secularism is secularism actually anti-religious? By the end of this lecture, what we should be able to understand that not only the meaning of the secularism, but also what makes the Indian model of secularism a different one, a distinctive one. So moving to the next. So let's understand the basic meaning of secularism. According to this chapter, secularism is fundamentally a doctrine that opposes the religious domination, and this domination can take two forms. First is interstate religious domination, and the second one is, we'll deal in the next slide. So first one is what? The first is inter-religious domination. This happens when one religious community dominates or discriminates against another religious communities. For example, if member of one religious community are denied equal rights simply because of their religious identity, this becomes the question of secularism. So therefore, secularism seeks to ensure that citizens enjoy freedom and dignity irrespective of their religious identity. But there is another form of domination also, which is very equally important. First is inter-religion, second is intra-religion. So in the intra-religion domination, so remember the basic formula. The basic formula is that, intra-religion, secularism equals to opposition of inter-religion and intra-religious domination. And positively, secularism promotes freedom within the religious and equality between and within the religion. After that, to elaborate the inter-religious domination, let's understand the inter-religious domination with some of the examples discussed in this chapter. The textbook refers to several instances of religious violence and discrimination that is being performed in India. One of such example is that in 1984, anti-Sikh violence, where more than 2,700 Sikhs were massacred. They were like genocide in Delhi and elsewhere. Another example is the displacement of Kashmiri Pandits from the Kashmir Valley. And this chapter also refers to the post-Godhra riots in Gujarat 2002, where more than 1,000 of people were killed. And the important point here is not simply to remember these events as historical facts. The political question arises that what do these incidents have in common? In each case, people were targeted on or the victimized on the basis of what? On the religious identity. And therefore, the basic freedom and dignity were compromised. And this is what the chapter calls inter-religious domination. So the secularism is important. Is important because a democratic state cannot allow one religious identity to become the basis for denying another citizen's fundamental right or fundamental freedom. Okay, so now comes a very important concept of intra-religious domination. Okay, the word intra means within. Okay, therefore, intra-religious domination means the domination or inequality within a particular religious communities. This is important because we often understand secularism only in the terms of the relation between the different religions. But this chapter tells us about the secularism also challenges the inequalities and distinction between within the religion, inside the religion. For example, this NCERT textbook discusses the discrimination against the Dalits, including their exclusion from temples and unequal treatment of women. Like caste-based discrimination, you can say caste-based discrimination is the best example of intra-religious domination. Like all caste having the common religion as Hindu, but performing discrimination on the basis of caste. So, for example, Dalits, including their exclusion from temples, unequal treatment, or women in the religious institution. The broader point is that religion itself can sometimes become organized in the way that allow conservative and or dominant groups to control others. Therefore, secularism does not merely ask, are Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, and other communities treated equally. It also asks that are individuals treated equally within their own religious community? So for examination purpose, we have to remember one thing. What we have to remember? We have to remember inter-religious domination equals to domination between religions. Okay, and intra-religious domination means domination within the religion. So Indian secularism is concerned with both of them. Okay. After that, let's address one of the most common criticism of the secularism. Okay, is secularism totally anti-religion or anti-religious? The answer given by this chapter is clearly no. Okay, so why no? Secularism doesn't mean that religion must disappear from society. Human beings experience suffering, uncertainty, loss, limitations. Religion, along with the art and philosophy, can provide response to these aspects. Okay, these aspects of human existence. Therefore, secularism recognizes that religion can continue to have an important place in people's life. What secularism opposes is not religion itself. It opposes the institutionalized religious dominations. So we must make an important distinction. What? That is, secularism is not anti-religion. Rather, secularism is against the religious domination and discrimination. It protects religious freedom while also ensuring that religious practices do not become a justification for denying equality and dignity to others. This distinction is extremely important for understanding the Indian secularism. After this, another major criticism is that secularism is a Western concept and therefore unsuitable for Indian society. But the chapter gives you insight that a more nuanced answer. What is that? Indian secularism cannot be simply described as a copy of Western secularism. India has historically been characterized by deep religious diversity and traditions of interaction between the different religious communities. And at the same time, modern Western ideas such as equality has also influenced our Indian political thought. Therefore, Indian secularism emerged through an interaction between India's existing religious diversity and the modern ideas of equality. This is why Indian secularism has developed its own distinctive form. Okay, the most important point lies here is that secularism does not necessarily have to look identical everywhere. Okay, different societies can develop different institutional arrangements depending on their historical and social circumstances. So remember, we should remember one thing, that Western secularism is not the only possible model of secularism. And in Indian society, okay, we can say Indian secularism represent a distinct model shaped by the India's own diversity and constitutional values. Okay, so after this comes the religious society. Okay, religious society. If religion continues, an interesting question is arising here, students. If religion continues to influence people's life, is secularism really necessary? In fact, this chapter suggests that this is precisely why secularism becomes more important. Okay, secularism doesn't require people to abandon their religious identities. Instead, it creates a framework with which people with different religious beliefs can live together with equal freedom and dignity. The state must ensure that it does not favor one of the religion over other. At the same time, it must protect the citizen from religious discrimination and domination. This is especially important in a country like India, where religious diversity is deeply embedded in the social life. So secularism is not about creating a society without religion. It is about creating political order where religious identity does not determine a person's citizenship right. This is the core democratic purpose of the secularism. Okay. So after it, minority rights and the question of minoritism. Another major criticism is that India's secularism pampers the minorities. This chapter responds by making an important distinction between the equality and identical treatment. Let us understand this through a simple example. Imagine there are four people. Okay, there are four people traveling in a train. They want to smoke while one doesn't. If everyone is simply treated accordingly to the majority preference, the non-smoker loses. Okay, but now imagine that a non-smoker suffers from asthma and smoking could cause a life-threatening attack to him. So suddenly, this is no longer an ordinary preference. This becomes the matter of fundamental interest. Okay, so the lesson which is that democracy cannot always mean simply following up the majority. Similarly, minority communities may require some special attention, some constitutional protection, because they are minor in number. Nobody is listening them. Okay, as the majority is being listened or dominated. Okay, the minority communities may require some constitutional protection when their fundamental interests are at risk. The chapter therefore argues that minority rights should not automatically be seen as special privilege. Sometimes providing different protection is very necessary to achieve the equal dignity and equality and genuine equality. So remember, equality does not always mean treating everyone identically. As you have read in my previous lecture, that equality doesn't mean treating everyone identically. Sometimes fairness requires additional protection for the vulnerable groups that we call as affirmative action. You'll study about this in higher classes. So all these about the minority rights and the concept and the criticism of minoritism. So next is Indian secularism and the principal distance. Finally, we have come to the most important part of the chapter, the distinctiveness of the India's secularism. Okay, the Indian model does not simply demand a rigid separation between religion and the state. Okay, instead it follows what the chapter describes as the principled distance. Okay, what does that mean? It means that the state can maintain distance from the religion when necessary. Okay, but it can also engage with the religion when required to protect the constitutional values. For example, the state may intervene to oppose practices involving the religious domination or discrimination. At the same time, it can also support the rights of the religious minority, including their rights to establish and maintain educational institution. Therefore, Indian secularism is neither completely religious control of the state nor completely in the mutual exclusion between the religion and the state. Instead, it seeks to balance the religious freedom plus equality plus social reform plus minority rights. And this is what makes Indian secularism distinctive. Okay, the ultimate objective is to create what? It's to create the democratic society based on the freedom, equality, dignity, and peaceful coexistence. So, if you remember only one concept from the entire chapter, that is, then you have to remember Indian secularism equals to principled distance. The state does not blindly interfere with the religion, but neither does it remain completely indifferent or isolated when the religious practices conflict with the equality or the freedom or justice. Okay, and that brings us to an end of our discussion on secularism. And for your exam, make sure you clearly differentiate between the Western and the Indian secularism, explain the inter-religious as well as intra-religious domination, and especially define the principal distance. Okay, thank you. I'll see you in the next lecture on the another book, okay, which is related to constitution. And that's all. Thank you. Kindly like, share and subscribe and keep supporting us for such content.